According to the ship description, the Aegis Vanguard Warden is a hard-charging bulldog of a fighter which features extensive forward-mounted weaponry designed to tear through the shields and armor of other spacecraft. So named because of their multiple jump range allows them to form the vanguard of any military expedition, Vanguards have seen extensive service against the Vandal. But, when put to the test, how does the Vanguard actually perform in combat? For this analysis, we'll attempt to answer 3 questions. 1. Is the Vanguard Warden viable in combat? 2. What missions might the Vanguard Warden be chosen for? And 3. How would a pilot use a Vanguard Warden effectively against opponents? While answering these questions, we'll start our analysis from a broad perspective and work our way narrower, using analysis of the ship statistics, in-game performance testing, and deliberate player versus player combat testing to help inform our findings. All of the resources and information on how we came up with these conclusions, including the spreadsheets and supporting documents, are linked in the description. Is the Vanguard viable in combat? Compared to all single-player combat ships, the Vanguard has some significant advantages. Its shields, hull, guns, missiles, power, cooling, and fuel are all well above average. Its primary weaknesses are its large size, its rotational velocity, and, to a lesser extent, its acceleration. Again, this is compared to all single-player combat ships from the Merlin to the Freelancer Miss. The Vanguard's large size and lower maneuverability are more than compensated for by its shields and hull, and it gains survivability from its potent offensive deterrence as well. The Vanguard is certainly viable in combat. It can survive long enough to carry out whatever its mission is. The caveat is against torpedo-carrying ships like the Eclipse. They have enough firepower and range advantage that cannot be overcome with current game mechanics. That's a vulnerability of every ship currently, not just the Vanguard. What missions might the Vanguard be chosen for? The Vanguard Warden's role is heavy fighter, and actually it currently only shares that role with the Hurricane. Fighters are designed to destroy, disrupt, degrade, disable, or distract other ships. Heavy fighters are intended to accomplish this by prioritizing durability and firepower over maneuverability. Additionally, the Vanguard is designed specifically for range. Because there isn't much to compare to in the heavy fighter role, we'll compare the Vanguard to all fighters to see how it stacks up from a mission-focused perspective. The Vanguard has the ability to compete with other fighters in direct combat. Despite being one of the larger fighters, most of its size is in length, leaving the forward-facing profile not as vulnerable to fire. This, combined with surprisingly decent rotation, gives the Vanguard the ability to face into threats and avoid exposing its larger top or bottom side to direct attacks. Despite being the only heavy fighter, the Vanguard's acceleration is actually fairly close to average, and in fact, its lateral acceleration is above average. Keep in mind that this average includes all snub and light fighters. These two factors combined together give the Vanguard the ability to attain a firing envelope against most targets without exposing itself too much. In almost all other areas, the Vanguard reigns supreme. It has the firepower and durability to do lasting damage against a target and to shrug off most attacks. The guns as a whole are the only caveat to this. All things being equal, the guns actually total to less potential DPS than what a player would have flying a Hornet, Buccaneer, Scythe, or Glaive. Additionally, the loadout is less flexible as the Vanguard cannot currently swap out its fixed MVSA cannons. This has a secondary effect of making the Vanguard far more effective offensively against larger targets than against smaller ones. Power, cooling, and shield generation also need to be addressed here. The Vanguard's access to medium-sized components mean that it ends up with way more power and cooling capacity than would normally be afforded to such a small ship. Even while firing, afterburning, and recharging shields with everything overclocked, the power requirement never exceeds the stealth threshold. The shields are an advantage unparalleled in any fighter. The Vanguard has over 4 times the shield capacity as the Hornet, 3 times the shield capacity of the Sabre, and sacrifices little in maneuverability for those advantages. In the end, the Vanguard absolutely can be used in missions tasked with attacking other ships, especially large ships. It might be one of the only ships capable of taking down a fully crewed hammerhead while solo, as shown in this video, mostly due to its incredibly robust defenses that shrug off even the powerful hammerhead turrets, combined with its power and cooling excess that allow it to continue firing, afterburning, and recharging shields indefinitely. It may struggle to track and hit smaller ships like the Arrow or Racers, but these smaller ships are unlikely to ever pose a threat to the Vanguard unless they gang up. The Vanguard also could potentially serve in battle as a scout, or safe command and control platform for a leader, or any number of other roles where survivability is crucial. Finally, remember that one of the Vanguard's intended advantages, its multi-jump range, isn't a factor yet, but when it is, the Vanguard could become even more useful from an operational perspective. In short, the Vanguard currently completely outperforms defensively, and that opens up its uses beyond that of the pure fighter role. How would a pilot use a Vanguard Warden effectively against opponents? The Vanguard has the ability to best almost any enemy, but may struggle a bit more against light and snub fighters due to its weaponry limitations. We'll analyze from two different scenario lenses, range battle and turn battle. The Arrow, being a light fighter, gives up some firepower and a significant amount of durability for a modest increase in acceleration and rotational velocity, as well as smaller size. In a range battle, the Warden has more range, more missile capacity, higher damage, and the ability to absorb a full volley from the Arrow without thinking twice. The Vanguard wins the range battle without question. In a turn battle, things are not so clear-cut. The Arrow has a maneuverability advantage, but in testing that advantage is difficult to exploit due to the Vanguard's acceleration and rotation. This is backed up with the math. The Arrow needs to stay within 60 meters to even have a chance of gaining a positional advantage against a well-flown Vanguard. So, most turn battles between two competent pilots will result in a nose-to-nose fight, one that is likely to drag on for a long time due to the Vanguard's incredible shields and the Arrow's tiny hitbox. Without considering bug weapons like attritions, all things being equal, the Vanguard will eventually win this fight if he uses backwards maneuvering to negate the Arrow's maneuverability, but a draw is far more likely. The Arrow simply does not have the firepower to kill a Vanguard without help. The Hornet has even less maneuverability advantage over the Vanguard, but still suffers from the same shield disparity as the Arrow, though it does have less of a hit to hold durability and better guns. In a range battle, the Hornet has less missile range, less missile damage, less missile capacity, and lower shields. The Vanguard can simply tank all of the Hornet's missiles. The Vanguard wins the range battle. In a turn battle, the Vanguard will dominate in any zone, but it will be able to kill the Hornet quicker if it stays nose to nose to avoid lapses in damage per second. The Hornet simply does not have the maneuverability to maintain a positional advantage for any significant length of time, and definitely not long enough to get through the Vanguard's shields. The Vanguard should again use backwards maneuvering against Hornets attempting pushes, and use booming attacks against Hornets attempting to stay at range. The battle can go quick if an opening occurs and some full volleys with all 5 weapons are possible, but if not, expect a medium-length fight. The Freelancer Mist gives up significant maneuverability for more missile capacity. Most of the other stats are surprisingly comparable. In a range battle, the Mist has more missile range, more missile damage, more missile capacity, and equivalent shields. Despite its incredible missile armament, even the Mist only has a chance of killing the Vanguard if it uses its size 3 missiles, limiting its range, and it will have to expend almost all of its missiles to do so. The Vanguard's only shot at lethality against the Mist, on the other hand, is with a full size 1 loadout at an even closer range, again using most or all of its missile complement to do so, and with even less chance of success due to limited tracking of size 1 missiles. Consequently, a Vanguard should attempt to avoid a missile battle against a Mist if possible. In a turn battle, the Vanguard has a better shot at winning. The Vanguard should attempt to target the Freelancer's more vulnerable but large nose section, while attempting to stay ahead of the Freelancer's rotation if possible. It's likely that the Vanguard will not be able to stay ahead of the Freelancer's nose for much of the fight. If the Vanguard gets missile locking audio indications, it should consider conducting a blow-through to prevent the Mist from using its missiles, then attempt to gain an advantageous position. The Cutlass Black has less maneuverability, less shields, less hull, and less power than the Vanguard, but gains some missile capacity. In a range battle, the Cutlass Black's 2 additional hardpoints is almost exactly cancelled by the Vanguard's extra shield generator. Both ships will need to use either size 2 or size 1 missiles to have any chance of significantly damaging or destroying each other. In terms of pure capacity, the Vanguard still wins at these shorter ranges. It needs less missiles to kill the Cutlass than vice versa, and it could even have enough to kill another Cutlass after that one. In a turn battle, the Cutlass compares to the Vanguard much as the Freelancer did, except that the Cutlass has less firepower and half the shields. Consequently, the Vanguard should simply go nose to nose or whatever angle is most expeditious and overpower the Cutlass, attempting to negate any attempts at missile lock with blow-throughs, since missiles will likely be the Cutlass's only chance at doing any real damage. My overall assessment of the Vanguard is that it is unequivocally one of the best fighters available to players currently. The fundamental reason for this is that much of space combat is making risk decisions. With such insurmountable durability, the Vanguard Warden will rarely need to make risk decisions or flee from a fight, and it gives up almost no maneuverability to gain that advantage, which in turn increases its defensive capability. Even without the advantages that will come from being designed for long-range missions, the Vanguard can simply outlast any enemy and outright kill many of them. That's all for this analysis. We are still working on the format for these videos, so once again, we'd appreciate any feedback and also suggestions on what ship we should review next. Thanks, safe flying.